Chapter 13 of Blindfolded. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Roger Moline. Blindfolded by Earle Ashley Walcott. Chapter 13. A Day of Grace. The wind blew strong and moist and salt from the Western Ocean as I walked down the steps into the semi-darkness of Pine Street. But it was powerless to cool the hot blood that surged into my cheeks in the tumult of emotion that followed my dismissal by Luella Knapp. I was furious at the poor figure I had cut in her sight, at the insults I had been forced to bear without reply, and at the hopelessness of setting myself right. Yet more than all was I sick at heart at the dreadful task before me. My spirit was bleeding from every stab that this girl had dealt me, yet I had to confess that her outburst of rage had challenged my admiration even more than her brightness in the hour that had gone before. How could I go through with my work? How could I bear to overwhelm her with the sorrow and disgrace that must crush on her if I proved to the world the awful facts that were burned on my brain? Resolve, shame, despair fought with each other in the tumult in my mind as I passed between the bronze lions and took my way down the street. I was called out of my distractions with a sudden start, as though a bucket of cold water had been thrown over me. I had proceeded not 20 feet when I saw two dark forms across the street. They had, it struck me, been waiting for my appearance, for one man to join the other, and both hastened toward the corner as though to be ready to meet me. I could not retreat to the house of the wolf that loomed forbiddingly behind me. There was nothing to do but to go forward and trust to my good fortune, and I shifted my revolver to the side pocket of my overcoat as I stepped briskly to the corner. Then I stopped under the lamp-post to reconnoiter. The two men who had roused my apprehensions did not offer to cross the street, but slackened their pace and strolled slowly along on the other side. I noted that it seemed a long way between street lamps thereabouts. I could see none between the one under which I was standing and the brow of the hill below. Then it occurred to me that this circumstance might not be due to the caprice of the street department of the city government, but to the thoughtfulness of the gentlemen who were paying such close attention to my affairs. I decided that there were better ways to get downtown than were offered by Pine Street. To the south the cross street stretched to Market with an unbroken array of lights, and as my unwary watchers had disappeared in the darkness, I hastened down the incline with so little regard for dignity that I found myself running for a Sutter street car, and caught it, too. As I swung on to the platform I looked back, but I saw no sign of skulking figures before the car swept past the corner and blotted the street from sight. The incident gave me a distaste for the idea of going back to Henry Wilton's room at this time of the night. So, as Montgomery Street was reached, I stepped into the Lick House, where I felt reasonably sure that I might get at least one night's sleep, free from the haunting fear of the assassin. But, once more safe, the charms of Luella Knapp again claimed the major part of my thoughts, and when I went to sleep it was with her scornful words ringing in my ears. I awoke in the darkness, perhaps it was in but a few minutes, with the confused dream that Luella Knapp was seized in the grasp of the snake-eyed Terrill, and I was struggling to come to her assistance and seize him by his hateful throat. But becoming calm from this exciting vision, I slept soundly until the morning sun peeped into the room with the cheerful announcement that a new day was born. In the fresh morning air and the bright morning light I felt that I might have been unduly suspicious, and had fled from harmless citizens. And I was ashamed that I had lacked courage to return to Henry's room as I made my way thither for a change of clothes. I thought better of my decision, however, as I stepped within the gloomy walls of the house of mystery, and my footfalls echoed through the chilling silence of the halls, and I lost all regret over my night's lack of courage when I reached my door. It was swung an inch ajar, and as I approached I thought I saw it move. "I'm certain I locked it," was my inward comment. I stopped short and hunted my revolver from my overcoat pocket. I was nervous for a moment, and angry at the inattention that might have cost me my life. "Who's there?" I demanded. No reply. I gave a knock on the door at long reach. There was no sound, and I gave it a push that sent it open while I prudently kept behind the fortification of the casing. As no developments followed this move, I peeped through the door in cautious investigation. The room was quite empty, and I walked in. The sight that met my eyes was astonishing. Clothes, books, papers were scattered over the floor and bed and chairs. The carpet had been partly ripped up, the mattress torn apart, the closet cleared out, and every corner of the room had been ransacked. It was clear to my eye that this was no ordinary case of robbery. The search, it was evident, was not for money and jewelry alone, and bulkier property had been despised. The men who had torn the place to pieces must, I surmised, have been after papers of some kind. I came at once to the conclusion that I had been favored by a visit from my friends, the enemy. As they had failed to find me in, they had looked for some written memoranda of the object of their search. I knew well that they had found nothing among the clothing or papers that Henry had left behind. I had searched through these myself, and the sole document that could bear on the mystery was at that moment fast in my inside pocket. I was inclined to scout the idea that Henry Wilton had hidden anything under the carpet, or in the mattress, or in any secret place. The threads of the mystery were carried in his head, and the correspondence, if there had been any, was destroyed. As I was engaged in putting the room to rights, the door swung back, and I jumped to my feet to face a man who stood in the threshold. "Hello!" he cried. "House cleaning again?" It was Dicky Nahl, and he paused with a smile on his face. "Ah, Dicky!" I said, with an effort to keep out of my face and voice the suspicions I had gained from the incidents of the visit to the Borton place. "Entirely unpremeditated, I assure you." "Well, you're making a thorough job of it," he said with a laugh. "Fact is," said I ruefully, "I've been entertaining angels, of the black kind, unawares. I was from home last night, and I find that somebody has made himself free with my property while I was away." "Whew!" whistled Dicky. "Guess they were after you." I gave Dicky a sidelong glance in a vain effort to catch more of his meaning than was conveyed by his words. "Shouldn't be surprised," I replied dryly, picking up an armful of books. "I'd expect them to be looking for me in the bookshelf, or inside the mattress cover, or under the carpet." Dicky laughed joyously. "Well, they did rather turn things upside down," he chuckled. "Did they get anything?" And he fell to helping me zealously. "Not that I can find out," I replied. "Nothing of value, anyhow." "Not any papers, or anything of that sort?" asked Dicky anxiously. "Dicky, my boy," said I, "there are two kinds of fools. The other is the man who writes his business on a sheet of paper and forgets to burn it." Dicky grinned merrily. "Gad, you're getting a turn for epigram. You'll be writing for the Argonaut first we know." "Well, you'll allow me a shade of common sense, won't you?" "I don't know," said Dicky, considering the proposition doubtfully. It might have been awkward if you had left anything lying about. But if you had real good sense, you'd have had the guards here. What are you paying them for, anyhow?" I saw difficulties in the way of explaining to Dicky why I had not ordered the guards on duty. "Oh, by the way," said Dicky suddenly, before a suitable reply had come to me. "How about the scads, spondulics, you know? Yesterday was pay day, but you didn't show up." I don't know whether my jaw dropped or not. My spirit certainly did. "By Jove, Dicky," I exclaimed, catching my breath. "It slipped my mind clean. I haven't got it banker either." I saw now what that mysterious money was for, or a part of it, at all events. What I did not see was how I was to get it, and how to pay it to my men. "That's rough," said Dicky sympathetically. "I'm dead broke." It would appear, then, that Dicky looked for me to pay, whether or not he felt bound to me in service. "There's one thing I'd like explained before a settlement," said I grimly, as I straightened out the carpet, "and that is the little performance for my benefit the other night." Dicky cocked his head on one side, and gave me an uneasy glance. "Explanation?" he said in affected surprise. "Yes," said I sternly. "It looked like a plant. I was within one of getting a knife in me." "What became of you?" inquired Dicky. "We looked around for you for an hour, and were afraid you had been carried off." "That's all right, Dicky," I said. "I know how I got out. What I want to know is how I got in. Taken in." "I don't know," said Dicky anxiously. "I was regularly fooled myself. I thought they were fishermen, all right enough, and I never thought that Terrill had the nerve to come in there. I was fooled by his disguise, and he gave the word, and I thought sure that Richmond had sent him." Dicky had dropped all banter, and was speaking with a tone of sincerity. "Well, it's all right now, but I don't want any more slips of that sort. Who was hurt?" "Trent got a bad cut in the side. One of the Terrill gang was shot. I heard it was only through the arm or leg, I forget which." I was consumed with a desire to ask what had become of Borton's, but I suspected that I was supposed to know, and prudently kept the question to myself. "Well, come along," said I. "The room will do well enough now. Oh, here's a 10, and I'll let you know as soon as I get the rest. Where can I find you?" "At the old place," said Dicky. 326. "Clay?" I asked in desperation. Dicky gave me a wondering look, as though he suspected my mind was going. "No, Geary. What's the matter with you?" "Oh, to be sure. Geary Street, of course. Well, let me know if anything turns up. Keep a close watch on things." Dicky looked at me in some apparent perplexity as I walked up the stair to my Clay Street office, but gave only some laughing answer as he turned back. But I was in far from a laughing humor myself. The problem of paying the men raised fresh prospects of trouble, and I reflected grimly that if the money was not found I might be in more danger from my unpaid mercenaries than from the enemy. 10 o'clock passed, and 11, with no sign from Doddridge Knapp, and I wondered if the news I had carried him of the activities of Terrill and of Decker had disarranged his plans. I tried the door into room 16. It was locked, and no sound came to my ears from behind it. I should really like to know, I thought to myself, whether Mr. Doddridge Knapp has left any papers in his desk that might bear on the Wilton mystery. I tried my keys, but none of them fitted the lock. I gave up the attempt. Indeed, my mind shrank from the idea of going through my employer's papers, but the desire of getting a key that would open the door was planted in my brain. 12 o'clock came. No Doddridge Knapp had appeared, and I sauntered down to the Exchange to pick up any items of news. It behooved me to be looking out for Doddridge Knapp's movements. If he had got another agent to carry out his schemes, I should have to prepare my lines for attack from another direction. Walbridge was just coming rapidly out of the Exchange. "No," said the little man, mopping the perspiration from his shining head. "Quiet as lambs today. Their own mothers wouldn't have known the board from a Sunday school." I inquired about Omega. "Flat as a pancake," said the little man. "Nothing doing." "What? Is it down?" I exclaimed with some astonishment. "Lord bless you, no," said Walbridge, surprised in his turn. "Strong and steady at 80, but we didn't sell 100 shares today. Well, I'm in a rush. Good bye, if you don't want to buy or sell." And he hurried off without waiting for a reply. So I was now assured that Doddridge Knapp had not displaced me in the Omega deal. It was a recess to prepare another surprise for the street, and I had time to attend to a neglected duty. The undertaker's shop that held the morgue looked hardly less gloomy in the afternoon sun than in the light of breaking day in which I had left it when I parted from Detective Coogan. The office was decorated mournfully to accord with the grief of friends who ordered the coffins or the feelings of the surviving relatives on settling the bills. "I am Henry Wilton," I explained to the man in charge. "There was a body left here by Detective Coogan to my order, I believe." "Oh, yes," he said. "What do you want done with it?" I explained that I wished to arrange to have it deposited in a vault for a time, as I might carry it east. "That's easy done," he said, and he explained the details. "Would you like to see the body?" he concluded. "We embalmed it on the strength of Coogan's order." I shrank from another look at the battered form. The awfulness of the tragedy came upon me with hardly less force than in the moment when I had first faced the mangled and bleeding body on the slab in the dead room. Again I saw the scene in the alley. Again his last cry for help rang in my ears. Again I retraced the dreadful experiences of the night, and stood in the dim horror of the morgue with the questioning voice of the detective echoing beside me. And again did that wolf face rise out of the lantern flash over the body of the man whose death it had caused. The undertaker was talking, but I knew not what he said. I was shaking with the horror and grief of the situation, and in that moment I renewed my vow to have blood for blood and life for life, if law and justice were to be had. "We'll take it out any time," said the undertaker, with a decorous reflection of my grief upon his face. "Would you like to accompany the remains?" I decided that I would. "Well, there's nothing doing now. We can start as soon as we have sealed the casket." "As soon as you can. There's nothing to wait for." The ride to the cemetery took me through a part of San Francisco that I had not yet seen. Flying battalions of fog advanced swiftly upon us as we faced the west, and the day grew pale and ghost-like. The gray masses were pouring fast over the hills toward which we struggled, and the ranks thickened as we drew near the burial place. I paid little attention to the streets through which we passed. My mind was on the friend whose name I had taken, whose work I was to do. I was back with him in our boyhood days, and lived again for the fleeting minutes the life we had lived in common, and the resolve grew stronger on me that his fate should be avenged. And yet a face came between me and the dead, a proud face, with varying moods reflected upon it, now gay, now scornful, now lighted with intelligence and mirth, now blazing with anger. But it was powerless to shake my resolve. Not even Luella Knapp should stand between me and vengeance. "There's the place," said the undertaker, pointing to the vault. "I'll have it opened directly." The scene was in accord with my feelings. The gray day gave a somber air to the trees and flowers that grew about. The white tombstones and occasional monuments to be seen were sad reminders of mortality. Below me stretched the city, half concealed by the magic drapery of the fog that streamed through it, turning it from a place of wood and stone into a fantastic illusion, heavy with gloom and sorrow. It was soon over. The body of Henry Wilton was committed to the vault with the single mourner looking on, and we drove rapidly back in the failing light. I had given my address at the undertaker's shop, and the hack stopped in front of my house of mystery before I knew where we were. Darkness had come upon the place, and the street lamps were alight, and the gas was blazing in the store windows along the thoroughfares. As I stepped out of the carriage and gazed about me, I recognized the gloomy doorway and its neighborhood that had greeted me on my first night in San Francisco. As I was paying the fare, a stout figure stepped up to me. "Ah, Mr. Wilton, it's you again." I turned in surprise. It was the policeman I had met on my first night in San Francisco. "Oh, Corson, how are you?" I said heartily, recognizing him at last. I felt a sense of relief in the sight of him. The place was not one to quiet my nerves after the errand from which I had just come. "All's well, sir, but I've a bit of paper for you." And after some hunting he brought it forth. "I was asked to hand this to you." I took it in wonder. Was there something more from Detective Coogan? I tore open the envelope and read on its enclosure: "Come tonight to the house. Sure if your life is worth savin'. Mother Borton." End of chapter 13. Recording by Roger Moline.